when you look at the R32, the R33, and the R34, you can see the evolution. You could see that the R32 GTR was really very well made, let's say. They needed to outdo what they did with the first generation GTRs. They really went all out with the development of that car. And you could see that with the chassis.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Car Chat podcast. I'm Sam Moores, and with me today I have Masa Kuji. Hello.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Can you tell the listeners a little sort of short summary of who you are and what you do?
Yes, my name is Masa. I am the co-founder of Built by Legends, which is a Restomod brand working out of Japan. We specialize in Restomodding Skyline GT-Rs, second generation, as well as Hondas. Hondas being, right now we're working on two Civics, an EG6 and an EK9. The GTRs we work on, R32s, R33s, and the R34s.
Yeah.
In partnership with Mines.
Right. Now, how did this journey begin? How did you get involved in this? Have you been in the car space for a long time?
It's quite different. I'm not a mechanic, but I have been in the car scene for over 20 years. Me and my co-founder Katsu, we started out in the car industry as in film production. We used to work with Best Motoring and Hot Version, which are video magazines back from the 1980s and 90s. And we used to make the English dubbed versions.
All right.
As in editing. And actually, we did some filming as well in the early 2000s. So that's how we got into the car industry. So right now I'm getting interviewed, but we used to be on the side behind the camera taking interviews.
Yeah. How did you get into that? I've definitely watched some of those Best Motoring videos, just crazy races. How did you come to that point?
It's interesting. We actually started out a company that was doing, the era was the .com era, right? So we started out a company doing mainly doing pop culture of Japan. We wanted to build a portal that was able to expose and really speak out the pop culture of Japan to the rest of the world in English. So we started out on the internet, and the one of the most popular themes or contents on our site was car content. And that's how we approached the original producers of Best Motoring and Hot Version, which is a publishing company called Kodansha. And that's how we got it really involved.
Nice. And were you in Japan at the time? Were you in the US? Where were you?
I was in Japan. I started out in Japan. We started to work with Best Motoring Hot Version. And then I actually moved to the US that was in 2003, I think. And I was living in LA for about 6 years doing the Best Motoring Hot Version thing.
All right. Do you have any particularly memorable moments from that period, or introductions, or things you sort of got to do and whatnot?
It was fun. It was fun just editing the footage, but in particular, it was really exciting to be involved in the actual production. Whereas we had cast from Japan, the drivers from Japan come to the U.S. and drive the cars in the U.S. We rented out a track in the U.S. and we did some filming of one of the most popular segments in hot version was the toge runs.
Yeah.
So although there wasn't a toge that we were able to have easy access to. We did the toge runs on a track that kind of simulated the narrow winding
Yeah.
roads of the toge. That was really
Nice.
exciting. Yeah.
That is, yeah. Yeah. What cars did you use?
It's many cars actually. We had American cars there. The Cadillac CTS V, Shelby Cobras, and a Mustang, Shelby Mustang. I think we had the GT500 when it was released. And also we actually brought some cars from Japan, the NSX from Spoon Sports, and a GTR from Mines.
Now I have to admit, my knowledge of the Japanese automotive scene is like pretty minimal, I would say. Watched, and this would be probably a bit cliche, obviously watched the Fast and Furious films, but like that is, I imagine, a small snippet of an impression. And so in my research, one, I was shocked, and this might be shocking to you, that I remember them talking about spoon engines in one of the ones. I think it was like the first one. And I was like, oh, like didn't really know there was a thing. And then I was looking on your website and I was like, oh, right, this is a huge thing.
Yeah, that's one of the famous lines, huh?
Yeah.
The character having a spoon engine inside his car.
So you're doing this, you're making these, helping make these films and translate them and direct stuff and do those sorts of things. And then how did it evolve from there?
That's how we really got into the industry. That's how we got to know a lot of the tuners, the people involved in building these cars or driving these cars. So in between hot version and best motoring and built by legends, I was with Katsu. We were doing a lot of other software application manufacturing and all that stuff. But in the end, we really wanted to build something tangible, not filming. And then we thought about all the people that we know, all the network that we were able to build in, 10, 15, 20 years. And that's how we came up with the idea of Built by Legends, doing a resto mod of the cars that we liked, we dreamed of back then when we were younger. And we wanted to produce these cars in a way that we would want them to drive currently as our age.
Yeah. And what were you picking as the sort of the ethos of the cars when they're finished? What are they aiming to be?
We wanted to build a street car. We weren't out to build a track car. We weren't going to be, going after, lap times and whatnot. Yeah. We wanted to build a street car that we would be able to drive on a daily basis, which means that it has to be reliable, but still having, lots of fun under the hood.
Yeah. And the name Built by Legends, I think I must have come across you guys. It would be I think it would have been a Larry Chen video like a few years ago, maybe. And I just read it as like Built by Legends. That's the name. Like I didn't really think about it in any way, shape, or form. But that's not the case, is it? Like the way you've chosen your partners and stuff, it all sort of makes sense.
I mean the legend, the word legend in our brand name refers to the people that we work with, as well as the cars that we work with. Right now, I told you in the beginning that we work with the GTR, second generation GTRs and Civics. Both cars are really iconic of that era. And the GTRs are legendary in the motorsports in the 90s, and yeah, in the 90s. So that's where the word legend comes from.
Mm. And then how did you go about the process of going, okay, we want to build our ultimate GTR? I know you do a few different ones. How did you decide, who to work with, all that sort of stuff?
Well, yeah, going back to the legend, we thought about who is legendary in
Yeah.
in in GTRs, and mine was obviously the first company to come up. And we had a good relationship with the founder of Mines, Nikura-san, back from filming filming Best Motoring and Hot Version. We when I was living in LA, we had his car shipped to the US, and I was taking care of his car while in the
All
US.
right. Nice.
Also with Spoon, when we were out promoting Best Motoring and Hot Version, Spoon lent us their racing car for a while, and we took
Nice.
it to the US for PR purposes
Yeah.
initially. So that's how we had a good relationship, and then we were able to go to them directly and kind of explain our concept about building a street car that's drivable every day, but still having that excitement of driving these old cars. But we wanted to bring in some new technology, new material, new developments, and they both liked the idea of what we were trying to accomplish.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For those that have not come across them, can you give a little, like, sort of, I guess, small, like, history summary of who Mines are and who Spoon are?
Mines is they've been tuning Nissans for, I don't know, maybe 3 decades, over 3 decades. And they are legendary in the Nissan GTR world, especially with their ECU tuning. And their concept resonates with our concept as well, which is that they want to keep the aesthetics of the car intact as much as possible. So they're not about big wide fenders, or like big loudy exhaust pipes and
Yeah,
whatnot.
flame kits and things.
No. So and they actually hold a few lap records on tracks in Japan, and they've been legendary with the R32, R33, and R34, and they continue to be. And they do work on the R35 GTRs as well.
Yeah.
But I think they are more synonymous with the second generation GTRs.
Yeah.
And then Spoon Sports, they are what people go, who people go to when they want to tune their Hondas. They have a lot of legendary cars, the Civic, the S2000, or even the little Fits that they used to race, or in Japan. So they are one of the most famous, successful tuners of Hondas in Japan.
And then, so was that a sort of an easier once you've convinced those guys and they're on board? Was it then easier when you're approaching the other people and being like, well, we've already got these guys are up for it. Are you up for it?
Yes, in a way, yes. In a way, yes. But at the same time, the cars that we work with, as with a lot of Restomod cars, they are old cars. So finding the right base cars were difficult back then when we started, and it's getting more and more difficult. Not only the base cars, but even the parts that we try to use new parts as much as possible. Some parts are impossible to obtain new. So sometimes we even produce our own parts.
Oh, okay. And then, so you're putting together this car. How did you choose? Yeah, who else have you got involved? And I guess also what level of performance and stuff. You say it's a street car, but I guess with someone, yeah, with GTRs and renowned for being able to have like loads of power. So how did you find that balance?
So with the GTRs, obviously although we do have a few selections of power or engines that we build, we do increase the power of the engine somewhat. The lowest, well, not the lowest, but the standard engine that we use is, let's say, 450 to 500 horsepower, and then all the way up to 650 horsepower. So obviously, the chassis of the car needed to be reinforced, and also we needed to restore all the body panels as well.
Mm,
So that's where we had a company called Garage Yoshida, which is owned by Yoshida-san, involved with the builds of all our GTRs.
yeah. Yeah. I've seen Larry's. He's covered a lot of this stuff. His video of sending his GTR back there.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. His car went through a very basic body and chassis restoration process. So it's not the same as what we do with the BBL cars, but he did all the body chassis work.
yeah. So what level do the built by legend cars go through?
We do reinforcements of the car. We also do the undercarriage. We change all the suspension parts. We powder coat them. All the chassis, all the suspension are reworked or
Mm,
replaced.
yeah.
And then the engine, the brakes, the suspension. That's mostly what we rely on mines
Yeah.
to install and to set up, and that's how we complete the car. And besides the body and the power plant, we work with a few companies that work with our with the interior of the
Mm.
cars, as well as carbon fiber products that we have. We work with dry carbon manufacturing specialists in Japan.
And do you use a lot of carbon in the car?
I don't know if it's a lot, but let's say on the R34 GTR, we have the bumper, the front diffuser, the hood or the bonnet, and the rear wing, side mirrors. That's about it.
Yeah, yeah,
There are a few things that we are working on right now, but those are the parts that we have right now.
yeah. And when did you build the first car, and what was the first one?
The first GTR that we built was the R32 GTR, which was completed, I think, 3 years ago, 2021.
Hmm.
Yeah. And then we went on to build an R33 and then the R34.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And was that what were there some tricky bits in the different, because there's three different models. Were there any bits that like specifically different that you sort of had to work on, or you not necessarily expected, or was it a case of minds have already done, like they know how to tune those cars, for example?
Yes. I mean, Mines had been tuning these all three models for years. So they know the cars. So does Garage Yoshida. But and the drive train is basically the same, but obviously as the models progressed, the bodies were made much better.
Yeah,
So it's interesting that when you look at the R32, the R33, and the R34, you can see the evolution of the GTR,
yeah.
the three models, and the reinforcements that we do are different in all three models.
Does it get less as they get newer, or it's just different?
No, it doesn't necessarily get less. It's just different. The parts that we need to reinforce, but Interesting. Once you have the bare chassis of these three models, you could see that the R32 GTR was really very well made, let's
Mm.
say, because I think the manufacturer Nissan was out to really, they needed to outdo what they did with the first generation GTRs, and it was kind of a reborn of the legendary GTR brand. So they really went all out with the development of that car, and you could see that with the chassis.
Oh yeah, yeah. So you can tell they've put all the money in to make a real splash
Yes,
when it's.
they made a great car. Yes.
Are there any particular bits of these cars that are like a right old pain, or not so bad?
No, no, they're not. They're not. They're all well made, but it's interesting that I didn't know until I really saw the bare chassis of these models. But you could see the evolution of, let's say, the going from the R32 to R34. It's it's probably, I haven't checked with the manufacturer, but it's probably, they were probably thinking about the R34 when they were producing the R33
Mm.
already. So you could kind of see that with the R33 chassis.
Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah,
were probably trying something or experimenting, but they didn't that part didn't make it into mass production, while it did once they
yeah,
had the R34. You could see that progress.
yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, that is. And with it, in terms of the popularity of the cars, I suspect in Japan of these cars being popular for like forever. Because sort of globally, it only seems to be growing and growing and growing and growing in popularity. Does that mean which of the do you have more interest in 34s than 32s, or is there like an even sort of spread?
I think because the R34 GTR was only legally importable, or they were able to legally import these cars to the US from 2024. Right now, the popularity is focused pretty much on the R34. But if you spread that out, I think all three models are quite popular. The R32 being the oldest, it is difficult to find a good car in good condition.
Yeah.
So that's one of the hard parts of trying to find that, the oldest car.
And most of the ones you find modified.
Yeah, most of them are modified, heavily modified. For us, to start with, being stock is good.
Yeah.
We'd like to start off with that. But a lot of these cars obviously have been tuned or modified. And, some of these cars had been driven really, really hard.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's always difficult to find a good base car.
Yeah. And what sort of level of production are you doing at the moment? How many cars are you aiming to do a year or loosely?
Right. We are a small company working with, actually small companies. So our production right now is about, I'd say, 10 cars per year, but I'm really stretching it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And besides the BBL full Restomod GTRs, we also do restorations of the GTRs, not Restomod modification, but more or less bringing it back to stock. Bringing restoring the car. We do that in conjunction with Garage Ishida as well. And that part of the business is also growing. People own their cars already, but they wanted to restore them to its original condition.
Yeah.
So we help out with that too.
And with those, do you see a variety of like when you're taking a car to be restored, what level of I know that they've not been modernized, but what level of improvement is incorporated in the restoration? Like, is it the top mounts for the suspension or something at the front that corrode? I can't remember. It's something like that. Or do you just go, we're going to do it as it left the factory? That's it.
I mean, we would try to improve things. I think you were referring to the strut panels that Garage Ishida had newly manufactured. They are made of high tensile steel, which is an improvement in terms of material from the original stock material. So and the strut tower panel is very prone to rust on the R34s. So we changed that. We also do a full measurement of the chassis when it's disassembled to make sure that even cars that look good could have been in a minor accident, whatnot. So we make sure that the chassis is in line with, or actually more accurate, in line with the original measurements that the manufacturer intended to produce.
And do you with that one? That's an interesting one. Do most cars that, like, let's say you believe they've not had any crashes or anything? Yeah, I guess you never know. If a car has not had any crashes, is that likely to be very like spot on to the measurements, or do they all deviate a tiny bit?
They actually deviate a tiny bit. I forgot the actual numbers, but let's say originally these mass-produced cars had a tolerance of 5 millimeters. We would do it in 3. We would try to correct the chassis with a tolerance of 3 millimeters. And, we measure, I believe, 108 points of the chassis at Garage Ishida, and make sure that the body is correctly lined up.
Yeah.
And even if the car hasn't been in an accident, these numbers do deviate from just driving them hard, or maybe someone lifted the car up in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Things we try to correct that. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess even if you've got the tolerances, let's just say they were 5 mil. If you've got all the stuff on one end of the car that's like the furthest, it's 5 mil the furthest that way, and then all the stuff on the other end is like 5 mil the furthest the other way, or whatever, it's going to create all the gaps are not going to be quite perfect and whatnot. Interesting. What's been your favorite part of the process?
Well, I mean, working with our partners, it's always interesting to learn about the car more as we go along, and then we're able to talk to the experts. Garage Ishida being an expert in chassis building, and then engine building. There's an engineer at Mines that's been building, I don't know how many engines he's built, like hundreds. Yeah. So there's all these interesting stories that we were able to touch when we are working on our cars, and of course, it's great talking with our customers about their dream cars, and then and we're able to actually shape those dream cars and deliver them to our customers and make them happy.
Yeah. Is there like a sort of loosely typical order from a customer, or do they're all really different use cases?
We actually have a standard model or spec of our cars, so we don't really go too much we don't deviate too much from that. So more or less, output is they our customers do have a choice, as well as obviously body color, interior color, whatnot. But mostly we do have a standard menu with the Built by Legends GTRs.
Yeah. So what is a standard spec? Like we know the engine, and then which is the most popular? R32, 33, 34? You said 34 at the moment.
Yes, the R34.
So if someone was ordering a 34, they're going to have an amount of horsepower. And then what are the sort of what is the process from, hey, I want a car?
Yeah, the process being, actually deciding on the engine first, because that kind of reflects to the amount of reinforcements that we need to do with the car. But it's always, we talk to the customer, we hear what they want, and for us to really understand the base car, we have to disassemble the car first. So after disassembly, we may find some parts that need to be additionally worked on, but we do that.
Do lots of people come with a car, they're like, oh, I've had this car for ages, now I want to do this? Or do some people go, hey, find me a car, we'll do the whole process?
I think maybe half and half.
Yeah.
People do have, they've owned their cars and people are thinking about restoring them. And then they come and say, rather than just restoring them, they wanted to Restomod the car. So that's how they find us and ask us to help them out.
So they ship you a car, you take it apart, go, ooh, that's worse than we thought, or that's better than we thought. Full body work, do all that, reinforcement. You picked an engine, I guess, suspension. Are there some choices, or is pretty much what is the
suspension? There are a few choices, as well as brakes. We do have recommendations, of course, but the end result being a street car, we're not. It's important for us to make the car comfortable, as well as being fast and safe. So we have been asked to build like a crazy engine, which we kind of say no. We're not able to do that. So if they want a crazy engine, they'll probably have to go somewhere else to build it. So yeah, that's how. I wouldn't say we're conservative, but at the same time, we're not going to go out of our concept of what we originally started out to build,
which is like nice, usable, fast road car that's maintaining this sort of original design.
Yes.
Look, you're not the super wide body, 1,500 horsepower, blah 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 blah.
No, I mean, although the engine or the car is capable of being that, that's not what we wanted.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And then with things like gearbox, are they all manuals?
Yes, they are. GTRs are the second generation GTRs are all manuals.
Do you have to do anything to the gearboxes, much to the gearboxes, to tune them up?
Overhaul them is about what we do, but the R32 and the R33 came with a 5-speed. And then the R34 came with a Getlac 6-speed. And some of the cars, or actually, we built 2 R33s already, and both customers wanted the 6-speed. So we've swapped, rematched, the R33 with a R34 6-speed manual transmission. And we were luckily able to find a new one for these 2 cars.
Nice. And then there, when you're thinking of some of the modifications and stuff, are there lots of sort of trick things that you can do now that you couldn't do back when the car came out that you implement?
Well, back when, I don't know, I guess as the models progressed, some of the parts were able to, let's say, some R34 parts are you can swap into an R33 fairly easily. Some parts, some engine parts, or engine parts, we actually use parts from the R35.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's not something that was available back then. Yeah, a lot of some of the body parts were never available, so we update those products.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And if you're a sort of when you're driving one in your head, what should a really good 34 that you guys have done drive like, and how might that compare to a sort of standard, either slightly leggy car that's been messed with a bit, or even just like a fresh restoration? Like, what was that driving experience like?
The cars that we build with the Mines engine is more or less focused on acceleration or response. So 650 is not big power for these cars, but it's all about response. You might be a little busy. Let's say you combine a six-speed manual transmission into an R33. You might be busy shifting,
Yeah,
but the engine responds well, accelerates well. That's fun to drive when if you like driving manual transmission cars.
yeah. So you've not got a big turbo lag,
No,
and then they rev quite, or they can rev quite high. Is that right?
they can. Our red line is 8,000 RPMs, but they can. Our engine could rev up to 8,500 fairly easily, but we recommend stopping at 8,000.
Yeah, and then I guess that gives it a reasonably long sort of service life. Yeah. What do you have to do when if you buy a car, it arrives? What do you have to do in terms of servicing and stuff like that?
Not much, not much. It's a standard vehicle. We recommend an oil change every 5,000 kilometers, unless you really drive them hard or on
Yeah,
track. Um, just to enjoy some laps on track. If you rev the car up so high, you should change your oil a little more frequently. But other than that, no, not much, not much. Not much. You don't need to be careful, extra careful. It is a daily driver.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The design, yeah, that's it. They're a car that you can just use, aren't they?
Hmm.
And then I guess, can you get people at the back? You can get, have you got seats in the back? Can you have seats in
Yes,
the back?
yes.
Is there much space? Can you get sort of small
No,
people
not.
in?
I mean, yes. There's seat for two in the back, but I don't know. I wouldn't want to be in the back seat for
Yeah,
a long time. Maybe half an hour drive to whatever
yeah.
fast food or something. That's
I,
good, but
I think I spent some time in the back of an R35, which I guess
okay.
is probably a bit bigger, but this had two large people in the front, and I was sitting across the back seats, and it was not, I was not
Yeah,
comfy.
yeah.
But
No.
yeah, I guess it's a bit like 911s in that sense
Yeah.
that you can use them if you need to.
Yes.
You're probably
Yes.
not going to drive 12 hours. It's,
No, no. I don't
uh,
think so.
that's fun. Doing 10-ish cars a year, presumably then you have quite a sort of long and reasonably strong relationship with all of the customers.
Yes, because our builds, a Restomod built by Legends builds take about 14, 16 months. So it is a fairly long process, and We try to keep our customers updated on how the car is or where the process is, the
Yeah.
status of the car. We send them pictures. We have conversations. So it is a fairly long process, and we are able to get to know these people
Mm.
while we build. So yeah, it is a fun.
And do some people come and visit the various specialists and stuff?
They do. They visit us. They visit mines. Um, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the geography in Japan, but mines in our office is in the vicinity of Tokyo,
Yeah.
let's say, whereas Garage Ishida is in the western part of Tokyo, which is about 7 hours drive from here,
Okay.
from
Yeah.
Tokyo. But people visit them. People visit Garage Ishida, or the customers do.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see. I think I would want to do that. If I've sent my car
Yeah.
wherever, it's
So yeah, I mean, although Garage Ishida is a factory, so to speak, so it's it's not available or accessible for like a walking visit. But if obviously a customer has a car in the
in the
factory,
process. Yeah.
yeah, we try to accommodate their visit as much as possible.
Although, from watching a little bit of videos about Garage Yoshida, they seem so quick. Everything is so efficient at like taking the cars apart and whatever that I
They
suspect
are, they are.
if you try and plan a trip, it might be like, oh yeah, but we've already done your car. We started it 3 days ago. We've done the full process. How long does that process take from a body shell coming in?
Well, you know what? I mean, I think you've seen the video footage of them disassembling the car, and
Yeah.
they are quick. I mean, they do that because uh, they did that really fast because we were filming, of course.
Yeah.
But still, they are very efficient at disassembly. But disassembly is the easy part.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So the entire process of restoring the body and chassis will take at least 4 months.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got a window.
That's at least 4 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. Typically 6 months.
Yeah. And have you seen have some cars come in that the owner thought, ah, it's a pretty good car, and then you blast it all off, and you're like, oh,
Not really. I mean, I think the owners know their cars fairly well, or they've studied the car in the process of purchasing the car, so they know. They might say, there might be rust under the rear, left
yeah,
rear or
yeah,
whatnot, and there is
yeah.
usually. Maybe a little bit more than they expected, but yeah, there is. But that's not really an issue.
Yeah, and you've not had a shell like I've seen, whether it's like some 911s or some older cars like a E-Type or whatever, where they've gone, it came in and it looked perfect, and then we blasted it and it was just, there was basically nothing left. You need another car.
No, but I think our customers understand their cars well, and they also enjoy the restoration process. They know that these are old cars, 25, 30 years old, 30-year-old cars. So they know that parts need to be restored. Parts will be rusted. And they see the before and after, and they're happy because they see the rust, and after we work on them, it really looks brand new.
Yeah. And do you do handovers in Japan, or I guess it probably varies? Some people are like, I just want it back at my house.
It varies. Some customers actually come to Japan to drive them, like Larry did. Larry came back when the car was done, and he drove the car in Japan. He wanted to do that after it was restored.
Yeah.
And some customers, we deliver the car to its destination.
Is that quite a fun moment? Are you there for a lot of the unveilings, or?
No, I think I have been to so far all of the unveilings.
Is that quite a fun moment?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's always exciting to see the customer smile when they start the engine,
Yeah.
or even before that when they see the car. It looks pretty good. So, and then once they get into the driver's seat, they're really smiling.
Yeah, yeah. Is there a sort of, I think this must be tricky for some people. If you're having a car done and you've sent the car, so you know what car's been sent, and you know like loosely what's coming back, you know like what it should look like. But is there almost, I think on some builds, people don't necessarily want to give them like all of everything so that they've got every single picture from 4,000 photos of every single stage so that when they see the final car, they're like, yeah, but I've kind of already seen it. Or is it like the more the better?
Well, I mean, I don't think we try to hide anything from the from the
No, I
customer,
know.
but
I don't know why you.
still the I think seeing the actual car and touching it
Yeah,
is really different from seeing the pictures, you know.
totally.
So yeah, I mean, seeing the actual car, touching it, starting the car, then driving it ultimately is totally different from just watching the car, seeing the car in images that we sent to their smartphones and
Yeah.
seeing
It doesn't
seeing a
feel
little.
so real when it's like this
No,
size.
no, not really. And it sounds a lot different.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds. They sound pretty cool. So you do the GTRs and you do some Civics as well.
Yes, we are building an EG6 Civic and an EK9 Civic. The EG6 Civic started out as our development car more than 3 years ago,
Right.
and we haven't finished it yet.
Okay. Work in progress.
Yes, work in progress. The EK9, it is a commission car that we are building right now, and hopefully will be finished next year.
And is there like I liked the Type R's when I was sort of younger and they were quite cool. Obviously, I suspect they're significantly more popular in Japan than they were in the UK. Do they have like a real? I guess my question is, they've got a cult following, but how much are people willing to spend on a Civic? Is there? Does it seem to be a thing, or is it like no? But we're building this Civic.
Well, honestly, it is a different level than the GTR compared to the
Yeah,
Civic. You know, both cars originally started out at a different price point.
yeah,
So it is a different market, I think, different way of thinking. There is a cult following of the Civics, even the EG6 in Japan, but I think it's been more about tracking these cars or driving them really hard.
yeah,
Whereas, again, we're building a street car that's fun to drive, but still, we like to make it look clean as well.
yeah,
So it's a different concept probably from the cult following of the Civics
yeah,
in general.
yeah. So what does a mine's build cost of what either one of the Civics or and I guess the GTRs? I guess it varies for each one, but loosely, how much do I need to spend?
For the GTRs, the cars that we build are a little less than 70 million yen.
Okay,
I don't know how that
give me a
how
second.
that
Let me
how
see
that
if I can do
translates
that.
to you.
Yeah, £360,000 at the moment, and then
Right.
in
At the moment.
yeah, and then what's that in dollars? $450,000, something like
Somewhere around there, yes.
that. And then and do you know what the Civics are going to be, or not really sure?
Not really sure. No.
Sort of similar or a lot less?
No, a little less than that.
Yeah,
A lot less than
a lot
that.
less. Yeah.
Yes.
Have since you've started building them, so a few years ago, with the whole US stuff, I guess that has put prices of at least 34s, like they're starting to move quite a bit. Has that made selling your conversion, your build, easier as the cars have got more expensive or not?
I don't know. I mean, it's made our life difficult in terms of finding a good base car.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the market has helped us a lot. It's funny, I was going to say, Nissan does restoration as well, I think. And to do restoration of a car, it's the process and what needs to be done is really no different between a GTR and a Civic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's interesting where we do have two price points between the GTR and the Civic, but the process is
Same.
basically the same. You know, parts costs might be a little higher on the other, but yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, that it must be a tricky blend because I always people look at various cars and go, "Oh, why didn't you restore or whatever?" And you're like, "Well, if you restore a 250 GTO or a literally anything similar level, but like low Ferrari, it costs the same as you say. Like if you're having to spend 4,000 hours or whatever it takes to strip it apart, do all the stuff, it doesn't matter." And then lots of cars don't make sense. So do you think there's, for you guys, with the cars that you're doing at the moment, that's the next 5 years, just crack on? Or are you like, maybe at some point we might do R35s or something?
Well, right now, we're kind of trying to streamline the process of building the second generation GTRs. We're getting good at it as we go along, but yeah, we're trying to do that. So, but yeah, I mean, in the future, we are looking at other models to work on, but right now we're just nothing particular, nothing on schedule yet.
And I guess if you're making 10 a year, you're not you're not churning these out. There's never going to be loads of them around.
No, I don't think we would be able to do that. And I think we'll probably try to keep it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not a mass production company, and we're not aiming to be.
Yeah.
You know, we enjoy the process of taking care of each car and each customer.
Yeah. And is it tricky managing? It must be tricky getting all the suppliers, all the parts, everything lined up.
It is.
Working together, timelines.
Yes. Logistics is always difficult. I think our company is unique that we don't do everything under one roof.
Mm-hmm.
We try to have each part done by the expert in the industry. So the best in the industry. So logistics is always hard.
Yeah,
getting it all scheduled, timed.
Yeah, and those people all have other customers. It's not like you're slotting in with
right. And then once a car is disassembled, it's really difficult to move around.
yeah.
Once the engine is out, it's really difficult to move around too. So
yeah. What's its journey? It starts, I guess, at you, and then goes. Does it go to Garage Yoshida?
It usually goes to Garage Yoshida to be disassembled, and then the engine gets transported to mines for the build. And while the engine is being built, the body is being restored, and it depends on the car or the timing. We actually do have the engine loaded up at Garage Ashita. We have the mines engineer come to Garage Ashita to install
Put
the
it
engine.
in. Okay, yeah.
But the final setup is always done at mines.
Hmm. And then is the restoration, that's the longest part of the process? Is that the longest part of the process?
Yes, I mean everything is done simultaneously, but also working on the interior takes
Okay.
takes a few months too.
Oh,
So
right. Okay.
and then we have to time it so that everything comes together at
Yeah.
the end.
And with the interior, have you upgraded things like stereos and stuff like that?
Actually, the cars that we build don't come with stereos, although we wire them up with the speakers. Um, we have we or at least until now, we've allowed our customers to install their own stereos once the car reaches its destination. I think uh, people have their choices, their tastes in stereo,
Yeah.
if they ever want one or not. So yeah, we leave it up to the
Oh,
customer.
okay. Okay. There's no just like, this is the best option and we just do that.
Yeah, and then in terms of interior, we completely reupholster the seats, the dashboards, the door cards, the rear quarter, everything, the carpet, the ceiling. So it does take quite a long time to do.
Mm. Yeah. And with I guess mines would be handling this. I know they have quite trick diffs in these cars. Is any of that adjusted, or is it does it remain relatively like standard in the sense of how it all works and is configured, or are the diffs and stuff, is that changed?
Actually, on the R32s, we removed the high cast system because it's really prone to malfunction. And then in terms of the rear diff or differentials, it's pretty much stock standard. So it's not made different or figured differently.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for telling me about all the various bits and what you do. I normally wrap these up with 5 questions. Do you have a most memorable driving trip or journey?
A driving trip. Driving 9 hours in a truck with a GTR loaded in the back was painstaking recently.
I can imagine. Do you have to do that quite a bit?
Not 9 hours, no. 6, yes, but not 9 hours. I did that with Katsuya.
Yeah.
That was memorable.
And where do you spend most of your time? Are you at base?
Our base is in a city called Saitama, but yeah, we're very often at mines or Garage Ashita or our interior guys discussing and checking all the products being produced.
If you could only drive one sports car for the rest of your life, what would it be?
An E30 M3 because I used to have one.
Okay.
I regret selling it.
Do you have some particularly good memories in that car?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it was a great car to drive. It's a small car; it's not all that powerful, but it handled great on the roads of Japan. So, yeah, I do want to own one again.
Yeah. Nice. What do you think is the most undervalued car at the moment? What should be worth more?
Lancer Evos.
Yeah.
They should. I think they should be more popular.
Yeah.
I mean, they are popular, of course, but yeah. I mean, the Evo 9s and Evo 10s are great cars.
Yeah, and
I think the older cars are more seen as classics, but the newer Evos are great cars.
Yeah. That's a good answer. What's the most interesting car to you at the moment? Well, it could be technology, Googling.
Oh wow! Some of the other Restomod cars.
Which, well, any particular standouts that you're like, oh, that one's pretty cool?
Well, I mean, wow, I don't. All the Restomod cars are interesting, and we learn we learn a lot from them, and but no, no. Amos Integralis.
Yeah.
Those are interesting cars.
Yeah. I like that one.
I've never seen one in Japan, so
yeah. I think have I seen? I don't think I've seen a Futurista in person. But I like his ethos, like his way of. You can tell they're probably quite fun.
Of course, Singer Porsches are what we're amazed with the quality of their work.
Yeah,
those are
and what they've built, the brand
cars.
They've built is very impressive. Right, final question: 5-car garage, unlimited value. It's got to fit into your life. So if you have a daily, you need a daily or something. 5 cars, unlimited value. What are you going to have?
Oh wow! The 30M3, a GTR R32, an EK9,
Yeah.
S2000. I don't know why, and an NSX.
Oh, all right. Okay. Yeah. Nice. Good little selection. Sweet. Well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.